lege chane computer tin zo shibu phan thong ro computer peju ta da yeju thone lege chane yaga chane yaga chane ta doge chane bam soya da barze soya da ma kya doge chane ro tin inga mi soya ro
so then all of our productions, industrial activity, there's positive things that are produced and made in factories and stuff like that. Then there are negative things like bombs and weapons and things that are made. Both kinds of things are produced by us.
Nechung chena tamsapa lero ro America gegab nala gegab shamba chigi danzin che chene ma ge gozo ne pa khapti chan danda jingya yo ro wa tan danda gobolo men jing ro chone dil khapti cha mindwa lari ni na sangma la yongdu nang changmen thona chigo chago
so the issue of global warming is different from a war. If, say, a country like America were invaded or attacked by another country, then immediately America would attack them back, and you have an opponent that you can deal with. But in the case of the overall damage of the environment by global warming, all of us are responsible for it. Therefore, there's no enemy who's really doing it to us. We're all doing it. So there's no immediate enemy to point to.
Global warming ki scenario di ngazu zamunin ni chazang ki yegab yongzo ki ditol thona tan cheni thone chuje sawa kharso di ta choyo kaya tabshi songyop cheya chugo kharso di jungran samlo ta cha kechimo resam yegab rang sing so doson da na me na ko pendo chimorwa
so therefore in the case of global warming there's just as our countries have a defense system to defend against ordinary enemies, in the case of the enemy of global warming, which is a universal one, there should be the same kind of a defense imperative to defend the beings of the different countries, the citizens of different countries, from the damage of the global warming. And therefore it is really the responsibility of the governments, very much their responsibility, to take very great responsibility for this. And energetic action. My own thought, as I've been traveling and hearing a lot about global warming and thinking about so for example, in order to make money and to do business, people over-industrialize and produce things and then pollute and create global warming, do heat pollution, other pollution, in order to make money, and then they collect money that way. But when the global warming attacks, then the money isn't really helpful. It isn't useful. It can't buy our way out of the disaster.
Unless we had
enough millions and millions to be able to go and move to the moon or something and build condos in the moon. No. But I don't think there'll be much to eat or drink on the moon. So that's just a joke. So we have to draw us in it. So we must first, so therefore, to summarize in a way, among the living beings on the planet, the migrators who live on the planet, the migrants actually is what the Buddhist word for beings on the planet, migrants, we're all migrants. And the migrants we must depend on each other in order to manage, to live on earth. So when we live in a family or we live in a society of any kind, then we must talk with each other and communicate with each other. And in order to live harmoniously in any kind of group of any sort, then love and compassion are essential, really, to proper way of proper living. So then there are, amongst other people, there are those we think of as friends and relations and close people. And then there are those we think of, we dislike and we think of as enemies and opponents. But if you think carefully about it in a way, there's no real difference between friend and enemy. There's many times when someone who's been very close to from even small age will then become an enemy in the future. And for example, someone who in the youth you knew in school and who was a big enemy and like a big problem for you, that later you meet in a different circumstance and suddenly you become friends. And there's no certainty also in the deeds of them, because sometimes one who is one's friend or relative will harm one, and then sometimes someone who is supposedly one's enemy will sometimes do something helpful. So there's really no certainty about friend and enemy. So it's very important to reflect on the uncertainty of friend and enemy. So therefore, if we meditate on this and we develop more of a broad-minded attitude about our friends and enemies, where we're a little bit less, attached to the friend and a little bit less frightened and angry with the enemy, then we begin to develop a much more even way of being with everyone. So then there is the basic mental problem, cause of all of our problems is what we call cherishing the self or self-cherishing. And when we look at some being outside as another being, as if they were an enemy or somebody opposed to us, it's because of the intensity of our self-cherishing. But if we in fact start to think about the world from the perspective of the other person, whether friend or enemy, and we begin to cherish the other, we can begin to bit by bit gradually shift our preoccupation and our cherishing from self to other, and this immediately is a transformation, a positive transformation of the mind.
Summer peace.
Summer peace, no. So recently I was in Denver, and in Denver there's a lot of gang violence among the youth where they shoot each other. And yet there is a program there called Summer Peace, where they sort of try to declare peace, have a period of peace. And then there's a program like that, and I went there and I talked to them. And when I said to them, I said that the inner enemy is much more dangerous and serious than the outer enemy. If you just go after the external enemies and you shoot them, then they have a friend who is your enemy and you have to shoot them, and then they're more and more, and there's really no ending to the long list of external enemies, and there never will be an end to that.
장엄마도 나온 도와. 나온 소소 되자 시다 디무. 디 다데 매버 소다 짜차서 매버 쳐요.
And whereas if you deal with the inner enemy of delusion, greed, and hatred, once you've overcome the inner enemy of delusion, greed, and hatred, then all the other enemies are finished. There are no more enemies.
근데 이제 정말 나와서 남겨주는